And hello, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of Taboo Table Talk. I'm your host, Krish Mohan, and these are your pre show announcements. I'm not plugging any shows today, but what I do want to let you guys know is that if you are feeling the holiday spirit and you have some extra funds you want to put into the right place, I often look for that as well. Is what cool thing can I support with this extra little bit that I have? Is it and you make your choices. I've chosen to spend it on myself or my friends, or give back to a mutual aid, or a creator I enjoy, or so on and so forth. So that's what I am pitching to you guys today. Is if you have some extra currency laying around, I don't know, and you want to contribute, you can make a one-time donation or become a sustaining member. Make monthly contributions, and those monthly contributions can be as little as $1 a month, $2 a month. Every little bit helps. But you can also make a one-time donation on my website at krishmohanhaha.com. It's krishmohanhaha.com/donate. That's where you'll find various different ways to make a donation. And this page is going to get updated. I have a statement of transparency that's also going to get updated. It'll probably get updated within the next week or two. But basically, the statement of transparency lets you know what are the goals I'm trying to achieve, what are the financial goals I'm trying to achieve, what are the professional goals I'm trying to achieve, and this is what your donation is going to help with. It's going to help with the quality of the shows and podcasts that I produce on a regular basis. It's also going to allow me to, if I get to a certain amount, I'll be able to pay somebody to help me with the audio editing, video editing portion of things, which leaves me more room to focus on research and writing and creating and, going to open mics pending the pandemic and all that sort of stuff. So, all those are going to kind of get updated. But again, if you want to become a sustaining member or make a one time contribution over the holidays, now is the time to do that. This would be a super awesome time to do that. And to the folks that are already sustaining members that do make one-time donations throughout the year, thank you guys so much. Every little bit helps. Every little bit helps keep this thing running. This is we're looking at hosting costs. We're looking at back end costs to produce these podcasts, to get these things to sound the way that it does, and all that sort of stuff. So, and I don't particularly have a team yet, so this is your contributions are helping me get offset some of those costs and help me get one step closer to having kind of a little bit of a team around this thing. So, and if we can get to a certain point, I might be able to hire other writers and do other cool stuff. So, anyway, that's the long and short of it. Again, if you would like to make a donation or become a sustaining member, you can do so directly on my website at krishmohanhaha.com. It's krishmohanhaha.com/donate. And you can find all my stuff on there, my albums, my show dates, my virtual show dates. You can sign up for my email list there. That's another way to keep up to date on everything I'm doing. So, but with all that said, this is the big bonus surprise episode, the holiday surprise episode. So, without wasting any more time, let's dive right into it, folks. Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome. The holiday episode, the holiday bonus episode. I usually do this every year. I throw up a stand-up set, a full stand-up set, usually 45 to an hour or more. This one is going to be more than an hour. um, this is usually like, these are sets that I normally only send out to the sustaining members. So once a year, I pick a set and I share it with you guys. And this is a set from a very, very, very early version of Politely Angry. If you want to listen to Politely Angry, you can do so directly on my Bandcamp. I think that's like $1, or maybe I changed it to pay what you want. I'm not entirely sure, but you can also go to my website and listen to it for free. KRISHMOHANHAHA.com, KrishMohanhaha.com. You can listen to it for free directly on my website. So if you want to listen to this podcast and then get to the end of this and then go, oh, I wonder how the things changed, that's an option for you guys as well. Couple of quick little notes. If you are trying to find my stuff on Spotify, there is a chance that it's no longer on Spotify or Amazon because I did take it down. I do have to do some work on taking all of the remnants of Spotify off of my website. That is going to be something that I will be working on over the next couple weeks. Is kind of getting rid of things and restructuring my website. Not in terms of like drastic changes, but there will be some changes coming to the website that I think will make things a little bit easier to maneuver around. So let's talk about this set that I'm going to share with you guys just for a moment here. This is from April of 2019. So this is a little over 2 years ago. It's the very, very early version, like I said, of Politely Angry. So there's a ton of stuff in this that actually like didn't wind up getting on the album. Some stuff that I towards the end that I'm going to bring back. And I'll kind of briefly mention this. I'll get into a little bit deeper about this next week during the recap episode. But, you know, I am changing because of this. I've had a little bit of a perspective shift in not just my life, but in also how I'm approaching creative projects and writing and all that sort of stuff. Kind of looking at stand-up in a different through a different lens and going about it that way. So I'm trying to write all of these bits that I have, including Citizen Revolution, all the material that went into Citizen Revolution in and of itself, and write them in an individual context rather than the context of an entire show. So some of the material that you hear, especially towards the end of this set, will probably get redeveloped, you know, with either new information or new perspectives, and present itself as an individual stand-up bit about the war industry, about this particular topic or this piece of history, right? And go about it that way. And I have some thoughts and ideas on how, if I can do live shows, I will probably release some kind of an EP or something next year. I will probably release an EP or something sometime next year, and then figure out what I want to do for an album, for a show, for something. So that's what's coming up. So, but there tons of new material that you guys probably haven't heard, especially if you are somebody that comes to see my performances, either live or virtually. If you've seen me perform in the last couple of years, there's going to be a lot of new stuff. And this is also from one of my favorite cities. This was recorded at Club Underground in Minneapolis, Minnesota, a city that I very much miss and I would love to come back to next year. Again, touring differently in 2022 and going forward. We'll talk more about that next week. But that is I very much miss touring. I very much miss being in different cities and talking to people and performing at these really fucking cool venues, man, with these really fucking cool people in the audience. You know, I definitely miss that. So hopefully 2022 will yield some tour dates. So yeah, and the reason I wanted to share this set, why this set is kind of special, is what I remember this set being is the first time that I did everything I'd written for Politely Angry, top to bottom. Right? And then listening back to that set, I was able to narrow down what I wanted to talk about and start building the show out from there. So this is I believe this show is the true first draft of Politely Angry. There were other times that I did the show, like the Pittsburgh Fringe Festival, I think was the first real time that I did the show top to bottom, but this is the first time that I think I was like, here's everything. Now I get to listen and say, okay, what makes sense? what deviates from the point I'm trying to make, um, and then pare things down and build out from there. So this was kind of the process that I did. So this was the beginning part of that. It was the first set that I remember doing and feeling very, very confident about when I got off stage, but also realized, hey, there's some work to do here. This was the first real time that I think I figured out what I really wanted to talk about in this show. So, you'll probably kind of hear hear that happening a little bit throughout the set as well. And it was just a really, really fun fucking show. Um, and that's another thing that I'm trying to go back to with stand up is over the last few months, I think I've been very serious about producing content and stand up comedy, and now I want to kind of go back to what was happening during this show, which was me talking about things that I'm very passionate about and think are important, but also having fun with it. Because if I'm not having fun with it, then what's the point of me doing it, right? Like, what's that? Nobody's going to get on board and be enlightened or think about art if the artist isn't having fun with the art that they're putting out there. So anyway, I blathered on a little bit at the top of the show here. I hope you guys have a wonderful holiday, by the way, and I hope you guys are being safe during your travels. And we will see you next week. There is no outro to this episode. It's just going to kind of end on the stand-up set there. So yeah, thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for supporting the show. Thank you guys for donating, sharing, liking, all the things that you guys do. And thank you guys for being here. It's been a really difficult year, and I think the support of the folks that listen to the show, come through the live streams, come through the virtual shows, come see me perform live comedy. Um, yeah, those are the folks that I really like help me out throughout this year, along with friends, family, and all that. I'm not discounting any of them either. That they hear it quite often, but you guys that support my work, I wanted to mention that and let you guys know that your support has meant quite a bit to me. So, thank you guys so much, and yeah, enjoy this little holiday gift. This is my early version of Politely Angry, live at Club Underground in Minneapolis, Minnesota, recorded on April 27th, 2019. Enjoy it, everybody.
For your headliner, Chris Mohan. Hello. How are you guys? Keep it going for Senthil and MJ, everybody. Thank you guys so much for coming out and hanging out with us tonight. Thank you guys. You could be watching Avengers Endgame right now, and you are not. So that means a whole lot to me, because this whole show is just spoilers for the movie. Surprise! I got you, fuckers. I got you. No, I'm kidding. Don't. If you have seen the movie, don't talk to me. I don't. There's no one saying anything to me. I am very glad you guys are here. This show is pretty new. It's about a month old. I started performing it about a month ago. So we're all gonna find out if any of this shit is funny. We're gonna take a journey together, right? It's gonna either be funny or violently depressing. I'm not sure where it's gonna be. We're gonna get to the end together. Right, so let's start on a happy note. We'll start on a happy note. I got married last year. Very excited. Thank you. Thank you very much. And my wife and I, we got to go on our honeymoon a couple months ago. We went to India, which is where I was born. So I got to go back to where I was born. It's been about 7 years since I got back to India, right? It was about 7 years. And India's different. A lot of minorities in India. There's about a billion of them, guys. A billion minorities. Pretty cool. Pretty cool to see all of the minorities there. It's been about 7 years. You kind of forget. You kind of forget how different a country is in 7 years, right? You know, you don't live in a certain place for a little while. You forget the ins and outs of it, right? The little subtle nuances of the country. And it was my wife's first time going to India. And if you've never been to India, India is amazing. You know, India is a beautiful country. There's a lot of energy. It's constantly buzzing in India, right? There's all this movement and all these people and all these colors. Holy shit, it's vibrant over there. Right? Fuck Roy G. Biv. You know what I mean? We fucking made a few up. That's what we did. Which can be jarring if you only think the color spectrum is red, white, and blue. It can be very jarring. Your own perspective. It is. It's an incredible country. I think it's one of the few countries that has incorporated nature into its cities. Right. The way we built our cities is around nature. We didn't mow nature down. We integrated nature as part of our cities. Right. Like when they were building the cities, they're like, "There's a tree here." And they're like, I think we should build around it. That's probably what it wants us to do. That's what we did, you know? It's kind of awesome. There's trees all over the place, cows everywhere, right? Right in the middle of the street. There's just going to be a cow standing there, not giving a shit about your Toyota. Cows will cause traffic problems. They don't give a fuck because they don't have a concept of that. Right? They don't care. A lot of nature over there. My wife and I saw a bunch of monkeys just hanging out in the cities, right? It was kind of awesome. We were having dinner one day, and across from our restaurant was a little park, and these monkeys jumped down, and they were sitting on the fence, right? Kind of scouting the location to make sure it was okay to, like, move forward. And then we saw this little kid in this park, like this 3-year-old kid, and he just picks up some leaves, points at the monkey, and throws the leaves at it. And this monkey was like, "What the fuck is this thing doing?" Now it's fully aware that I can murder it at any point, right? Like, I will dominate the shit out of it. No, Sanjay, I think this is bullshit, okay? This is bullshit. We gotta deal with all of their shit, and then this sort of disrespect. I don't like it. I don't like it. They're in charge of the planet. This thing is in charge of the planet. We gotta find a new world, guys. It's incredible. One of a really big difference between America and India is that the sun lives there. Um, it does, right? It lives there, it works there, it vacations there. Every so often we're like, "Hey, why don't you go visit like England or America or some shit?" You know? They could use it. They keep trying to tan, it's not cutting it. And the son's like, "No, I like it. It's warm here." And I'm like, "But it's because of you. It's incredible, right? India's buzzing. There's a lot of noise in India. India's got a lot of noise constantly. You know, there's noise from traffic. There's noise from construction, people, animals all over the place. It's amazing, right? Noise is something you complain about in America, right? America is a very quiet country. We don't like a lot of noise in America, right? That's when you know you're in trouble is in India is when the noise stops. When the noise ends, they're like, "Call the cops, the sirens will help." That's the true definition of a developing country because there's constant construction all the time, right? It's the true definition of a developing country. When I was living in India, we didn't really have a whole lot of highways and flyovers. We had a couple, not a whole lot. There's highways all over the place now, right? The traditional sense of what a highway is. We got those maybe a decade ago, something like that, right? And now we're building metro systems in a lot of cities to get people off the fucking highways. It's a constant developing country. There's all this construction going on all the time because we need to get rid of everything British. We gotta get rid of it. We gotta get it out of here. Except the language. We're gonna keep that, and we're gonna keep the U in colors. We keep it. Like, we already have 472 languages. What's one more? It's an amazing country. I really love it, right? But a lot of people were worried for me and my wife. A lot of people were worried for me and my wife. You know, it's my wife's first time going there. I haven't been there in 7 years. A lot of people got concerned about us, right? Our friend came up to us, and out of love, out of love, he said this. He came up to us and he said, "Be careful in India, because India is going to be an assault on your senses." That's what he said. It's going to be an assault on your senses. I couldn't disagree with that more, right? I don't think it's an assault. I think India is a 5 cent symphony of human evolution. That's what it really is, right? India will make you use all of your senses and then some. You guys have heard about the concept of the third eye, right? The concept, you guys know, yeah, the third eye, yeah, right? Yeah, that's because you need to open all three of them to fucking survive. Gotta get through the day. America's not in touch with a lot of its senses. Like logic, it's not in sense. Something's missing. But our family everybody was really concerned for us. Our family kept saying, go to the tourist spots. That's where you got to go. If you really want to see India, you got to go check out the tourist spots, go see the touristy temples. And we hate tourist spots. We really do. Yeah, my wife and I are not tourist people, man. We're just not. You know, we don't think that's the real India, right? Tourist spots to me don't represent any place, right? They don't represent the city or any of it. And I'm not against the idea of tourism, right? The idea of tourism is pretty fucking cool. It's to get non-locals to come to a place and learn about its culture, learn about its history, learn about this little cool thing that they built. But it's not. And that's what we do with it. It's kind of awesome. I like that idea. It's a safe place for non-locals to go and experience a little part of the city, you know, get a little taste for what the place that you're in. But basically what ended up happening is we saw a bunch of people go to a place and we're like, oh, I bet we could sell them t-shirts. That's pretty much what we do. Kind of fucks up tourism, you know? Like, I just don't think it represents the places, right? Like, I'm not a big tourist fan, you know? I don't think the Statue of Liberty really represents America because it's a woman. So, oh, come on. You guys are pulling back on me on that shit. Do you really want the Grand Canyon to be a representation of America? Right? A big fucking hole? That's what you want representing America? I mean, it's accurate, but do you really want it? I don't think these tourist spots represent India, right? These big famous temples and shit, they don't represent India. One of the tourist spots that we were told to go to is the Gateway of India. The Gateway of India is this giant monolithic structure built on the seaside in Bombay, and it was basically built because the Queen wanted to go through a gate. What the fuck? That's not part of our history, you know what I mean? That's part of the invaders' history, right? I'm not saying tear it down, but don't make it a representation of your fucking country. It doesn't make sense. We're just not for tourists, right? And we were told to go, and we got these big rude awakenings about how these tourist areas don't represent the country that we're in, right? There's a lot of famous temples, you know, and we visited a bunch of these famous temples. Now, look, my wife is very spiritual. She's very into going to temples. I am an agnostic, which basically means I'm an atheist that wants God to show the work. Do the math, that's all I want. Right? So we went to a relatively famous temple. We went to the Mahalakshmi temple in Bombay. We used to go to this temple when I was a kid. It's kind of a relatively famous temple, right? Lakshmi is the goddess of wealth. That's a vague term, isn't it? Wealth. I mean, you could be wealthy in anything. You could be wealthy in friends. You could be wealthy in comic books. You could be wealthy in cats. Some people might call that a detriment, but to each their own. To each their own. But for all intents and purposes, wealth means one thing. It means money. That's what we associate wealth with, right? So realistically, India has a goddess of money. It's kind of hilarious to me. So we're at this temple, and like I said, we used to go to this temple when I was a kid. My sister and I used to call it the beach temple because it's right next to a beach, right? That's how our parents used to get us to go to these temples, right? They were like, "Hey, you want to go visit God?" And we were like, "No." And they're like, "You want to see a force of nature?" And we're like, "Fuck yeah, let's do that one. That one sounds awesome." We're like, "Well, you gotta go see God first." Right? So that's what we would do. We would go, we would see the gods, we would hang out at the beach, go get some sugarcane juice, and we got the fuck out of there. Like it was just, like we made a day out of it, you know. So we get to this temple, and usually, like what we would do when I was a kid is there would be people that would be selling like these offering plates, right? These darshan plates, because you got to offer something to the god, and then you pray for something. Like it's a little bit of a negotiation. Uh, you give a little, you get a little, kind of a situation. It's very similar to mafia. So you buy these darshan plates, right? And they usually have like a flower, some fruits, maybe some nuts, a dessert, that sort of stuff. And we felt kind of okay buying this stuff because these were locals that lived in the area. They were working class people, right? So we kind of felt good when we bought them from these people. We felt okay about it, right? And in the 7 years that I haven't been there, shit's gotten a lot more commercialized outside the temple. They are selling everything under the sun going into this temple, right? I don't need a 2-for-1 special before I take my shoes off. It's a weird thing, right? Why are you selling shit in front of the house of God, right? It's fucking weird. Wouldn't it be weird if you went to church on Sunday and outside there was a Walmart rep? Just going, condoms, $5. Condoms, $5. I mean, sure, the Catholics could use it. Look, if you guys are tightening up with that joke, it's gonna be a long show. This is the easy part. It'd be weird, right? If the priest stood up in the middle of the sermon and was just like, "Hey, today the word of the Lord is sponsored by Colgate. We want your teeth to be as white as the Jesus we want you to believe in." It's fucking weird. So we walked through all the salesmen, and then we got to the steps, and we had to take our shoes off, right? You have to take your shoes off before you go into the temple, right? You can't just drag your dirty shoes into the house of God, right? God just vacuumed. Don't be rude. Yes, it is. So we left our shoes with this old beggar woman, and we were like, "Oh, hope we get them back." Right? Fingers crossed. We walked up the stairs, and then we had to go through security. And I was just like, what the fuck just happened? Am I at the temple or the airport? What happened? What happened, right? Like, it all kind of feels the same. I don't have shoes on. I'm being touched inappropriately. I'm not getting peanuts when I ask for it. I was like, why is there so much security here? And then I saw the walls just lined with gold, and I was like, oh, that's why. I had a backpack on, and inside my backpack, I had a spare set of sandals for my wife. And they were like, you can't take any footwear into the temple. And I was like, that's fine. Where do you want me to set this? And they were like, well, just put it by the security station. It'll stay safe. and you can come back at the end and pick it up and leave. And I was like, great, let's do that. So I set it by the security station, and then we went in and we went to get our darshan from Lakshmi. And as we're approaching the goddess, we were split into gendered lines. Right, there was one line for women and one line for men because God hates fun. So one of our naughty bits touched while we were waiting in line. We would have left them by the door if we could have. Bit of a design flaw, if you ask me. The real reason for that is because they're trying to prevent like groping and any sort of sexual assault, right? Because people were doing that in the lines. They were like inappropriately touching people in the line, which is just fucking weird. Which is like, who is getting hot and bothered over divinity, right? Like, who is like, I can't finish unless I know there's something omniscient above me. Like, taking it too seriously. We're split up in these lines and we're walking, and I'm watching this priest very carefully, right? Because these people that bought the darshan plates, the offering plates, right? They're not rich people. They're average working class to poor people, right? They spent their hard-earned money to be there in the middle of the day. It's the afternoon, right? So they're kind of coming in either on their lunch break or they had to take a half day in order to come to the temple, right? Make an offering to the god, and they're usually asking for more money, more wealth, right? That's what they're asking for. And the priest is kind of doing this weird thing, right? Where what he's doing is you go up and he takes the offering plate, he does some mantras, he throws the flower to the goddess, and then he takes and gives you like the fruit or the dessert or whatever, and then they put money into the donation till, and the priest goes, "Fucking next." It's like, what kind of fast food darshan is this shit, right? I missed something. Is KFC sponsoring the temple all of a sudden? What happened? So, you know, it's been a very long time since I've been at this temple. So I was like, all right, I wanna get some one-on-one FaceTime with the Lord, right? I wanna get some quality time in. Maybe I'll get some answers. I don't know. We'll figure it out. So I figured, let's get rid of the business end of it first. So we can get to the personal side. Let's talk business first. So I thought I'll put the money into the donation till first. Big mistake. Big mistake. The second my hand left the bill, the priest was like, all right, move along, move along, move along. Let's go, let's go, let's go. And I was like, nobody's here. What are you rushing me for? Right? Let me have my moment with the Lord. It's been a little while. Let me make eye contact with Lakshmi. Maybe she'll wink at me, And I'm like, oh shit. Give me a few minutes. Like if that happened, this would be a totally different show. Just been up here and be like, guys, I gotta tell you about the word of the Lord. It is sponsored by Colgate. Give me a couple minutes, right? I could have been up there and be like, hey, how's it going? I know it's been a little while, we've had a tough relationship, me and you, because of the whole I don't think you exist thing. But I feel like a lot of that is on you for like providing no evidence. So you forgive a little. So how are you? So hey, let me ask you a question. If you're the goddess of wealth and you have like infinite wealth everywhere, how come you don't help poor people? And then I would get kicked out of India. So we just felt awkward about this whole experience, right? It was kind of a weird experience for me and my wife. And we're sitting underneath this tree, and my wife keeps saying, I don't think God's here. She kept saying that. She's like, I don't think God's here. I don't think God's not present here. It doesn't feel like God's here. And I was like, yeah, you're probably right. No, I don't think God's coming down. You could check out the 2-for-1s. you know. She was like, well, let's get out of here. And I was like, yeah, let's go grab something to eat. We'll go do something more fun. We'll go to the science center, see some real shit. You know. I thought that joke would land, but that's fine. That one's for me. So we walked over to the security station to grab my wife's sandals, right? And I walk over to the security station and I'm looking around and I'm like, I don't see the sandals, right? And I'm looking around, and I was like, I think someone took my wife's sandals, right? And I turn around to the security guards, and I was like, hey, I think someone took my wife's sandals, and they were like, well, what the fuck do you want us to do about it? Who cares? Because, like, I'm just another brown person to them, right? And I'm just another brown guy in India. I'm literally one in a billion. That's actually what I am, right? And then they turned around and saw my white wife, and they were like, holy shit, we gotta find those sandals! Round everybody up! Fuck, guys, she might stop spending money here, and worse yet, she might write us a bad Yelp review. I heard they do that. No, Sanjay, I saw it on the television. I saw it. So now everybody's involved looking for my wife's sandals. We're just kind of like, we don't know what to do. And it gets to the point where they actually called the cop on duty at the temple, and he walked over and he's like, I guess I'll take your statement. And I was like, this is a bit much. Like, I appreciate the theater you're doing here. I don't think you're gonna fucking do anything, right? And he's like, give me your phone number. I'll call you if I find anything. And I was like, I'm sure you're gonna win an award for your performance, officer. Trying to go for that EGOT. But the officer kept saying something over and over again to me. He's like, who would do this in front of God, you know? Who would steal something from somebody else so close to the presence of God? I mean, really, who would steal something from someone else so close to the presence of God? And I was like, oh, you mean like the priest? Stealing money from poor people, which is express darshan bullshit, right? Like, you should go ask him about the sandals. See what he says. Start there. I think I figured out where you should investigate. So this whole experience, like, we feel so disappointed about this, right? We're like livid about this whole experience. We feel disappointed. We're sad. We're walking down the stairs. We didn't even go to see the beach, you know? We walk up to the old beggar woman, and we're not even expecting our shoes to be there anymore. And we hand her the token, and she gives us her shoes back. And we put on our shoes, and we look at her, and we were like, well, how much do we owe you for watching our shoes? And she goes, whatever you think is best. So I gave her some money, and if I'm being honest, not enough, right? I should have given her a little bit more. And as I'm walking away, it dawns on me, I should have spent my entire time there with that old woman, right? That old woman is the wealthiest person at this temple. She's not traditionally wealthy, but she's wealthy in integrity and honesty. She's the only person that did what she said she was going to do, right? She said she was going to wash her shoes, and she fucking did it. And I judged her. I didn't think that she was, right? She's the most honest person there. She's probably got stories for days. You know, I should have got my darshan from her, not some gilded fucking god, right? Not something that I had to go through security for. That's what it is, right? These people are hiding their wealth. They're hoarding their wealth. They have a security guard around the goddess of wealth. They're not willing to share it with anybody. What little this woman has, I bet she shares it with her community and her loved ones, right? And she doesn't have a lot. And I was thinking about this, and I was like, I should have just been here with her, and I fucking judged this woman. I feel awful. I feel awful about all of this. And right at that moment, my wife saw a little boy kick a cat in the butt, and we were like, we gotta get the fuck out of here. This fucking sucks. It's the problem with religion, isn't it? I think what humanity has done with religion is the problem. I'm a big fan of religions, actually. Right? Yeah, I'm a huge. I love the idea of religions. The idea of religion is fucking beautiful. It's a beautiful idea, right? It's the first answer we really came up with, right? The idea of religion predates like bacon and peanut butter. You know, like it's like we had to come up with religion and then we came up with those things, right? It's beautiful. Think about it. That's one of the first things. It predates science. You know, it's one of the first things that we came up with. We had all these questions, right? What are these little lights in the sky? You know, what's underneath the ground we're walking? What is the ground we're walking on? How does this fire get made? Why is it hot? We had all of these questions. And the answer we came up with was there was some being up in the cosmos, somewhere, that we're not going to truly understand. And what they want us to do is be here and take care of the planet and take care of each other and love each other forever. Yeah, right? It's a beautiful idea. And if you don't believe in this God of love, we will fucking kill you. Yeah, I don't think the idea is the problem. I think it might be us. Kind of fucking it up. The issue is we're competing over religions, aren't we? They all kind of have the same message, but we keep competing over it, right? They're like, no, it's my God fucking said that shit first. It's my God. It's like, who cares? Are you gonna follow what they say? No, you're not. Fuck. Well, here we go. You know. It's ridiculous to me. And while we're on the subject, I think polytheism makes a whole lot more sense than monotheism. Doesn't it? Yeah, I really do. I think it just makes a whole lot more sense. Right? Polytheism is the idea that you have multiple gods, not just one. Right? That's the idea, right? Because think about it. If you're gonna make some shit up, why stop at one? Right? You think Stan Lee stopped at Spider-Man? So I created one hero and he was like, I think I'm done with heroes. That's enough. Oh, we fucking made a universe. That's where the money is, baby. That's where you gotta go with it. Look, if we're going to make the argument that we are made in the image of God, polytheism just makes a whole lot more sense than monotheism, right? Every single story in polytheism, all the gods act just like we do, right? Zeus was one of the Greek gods, the leader of the Greek gods, and all he wants to do is fuck. This all the time, he's just trying to get laid constantly. Tell me that's not a teenager, right? He will try to get laid by any means necessary. At one point, he transformed himself into a goat, and everybody was like, why? And he was like, because I like a challenge. And then he won. He fucking won the challenge. Thor, one of the Norse gods, he's got himself a movie franchise now. That's just selling out in your 20s. That's what that is. Come on. Vishnu, one of the Hindu gods, right? One of the gods that I espouse to. Vishnu will take various different forms. Every couple hundred years, he comes back as something different, right? Krishna, Rama. At one point, he was a boar, a fish, like a half man, half lion creature. That's just a midlife crisis, isn't it? Like all the other deities are like, why can't you just get a Ferrari like a normal person? Fine, you're a lion then. That's fine. Fucking century over yet, so you can be over this shit. It just makes a lot more sense. I don't like the idea of a monotheistic God. I really don't, right? It's like it's one person, and they watch everything. They created the entire cosmos, and they're super obsessed with this planet. What kind of fucking egotistical shit is this? We're the most interesting thing in the universe? Are you fucking kidding me? Ego-driven. And this monotheistic God sees everything you do all the time. What a creep! And he's got all these fucking rules you have to follow all the time, or else you don't get into his kingdom. What the fuck is this? He's just a peeping Tom mixed with a dictator. That's all it is. Right? That's all it fucking is. Oh my god. It's like the NSA's wet dream is basically what this dude is. constantly watching you all the time. It's like, get a hobby, God. Oh my God. Somebody show God what macrameing is. Fuck. It's so exhausting. It's ridiculous. Look, when you boil religions down, they come down to one thing, right? They're beautiful stories with some really good morals to help us be better people. That's what they really are. Beautiful stories with really good morals. Fuck, Aesop fables are also beautiful stories with really good morals. Nobody decided to build a church to Aesop. Nobody decided to go to war over which one's the better, the tortoise or the hare, right? Like, that's another thing we do with religions. That's how far we take the competition of religion, right? Of who's better and who, like how we can get people to recruit them onto our team. Is we war with religion. We've been warring with religion since we learned how to spell God, which is another joke I wrote for me. That's basically. We have, right? 1100s with the Crusades. In the 16 and 1700s, we were killing and banning Christians and Catholics in Japan. And we've been persecuting Muslims till, oh, I don't know, when did time begin? It's been a little while. It's ridiculous to me, right? Stupid that we're warring over this really beautiful idea. I think religions are proof of our own evolution. Sorry, creationists. But they are. They prove that we are an evolved species, right? No other animal has come up with this idea. No other animal has done that. We're the only animal that came up with the idea of religion, right? Birds haven't come up with the idea of a bearded floating man in the sky. They fucking live there. They would have seen him by now. Who's this guy? Calls himself Gary. He's building a Starbucks. Rhinos don't have the concept of a talking, burning bush, right? Because they're nature's firefighters. They would have stamped it out immediately. Which means rhinos don't have the Ten Commandments, which makes rhinos the most immoral of nature's creatures. Right? They're just fucking and killing each other's wives. Maybe if the dinosaurs believed in an eight-armed blue deity, they wouldn't have gone extinct.
That's
Yeah, thank you. I thought so too. Wouldn't that be awesome? Like they could have just seen the meteor coming and then prayed, and then the deity would have just pushed the meteor out of the way. That'd been awesome. Just use it to compete with ourselves all the time. That's the problem with humanity. We're too competitive as a species. We're a hyper-competitive species, right? We'll compete over fucking anything. This is what we're doing. It's completely ridiculous. And look, we're a highly evolved species. This competition aspect comes from the time that we were living in the trees, right? Competition was necessary for us to survive. We're not at that baseline level of survival anymore, right? We've invented skyscrapers. We have the polio vaccine. We made the internet and porn. I mean, come on. We don't need to fight for survival right now. We're doing okay. You know? We just keep competing over everything all the time. It's completely ridiculous to me. We'll fight about these little tiny things, right? Like schools, like what school you went to. People compete over that shit, right? My university's fucking better than your university. Go fight in otters. Otters don't care about fighting, right? Like, otters just care about looking cute, eating fish, and predatory birds. Like, we compete over everything. My community does it. The minority community, we compete with ourselves all the time. We compete with who's got it worse. That's our competition, right? Who's got it worse, the blacks or the Chinese? I don't know. Both of them had to deal with slavery. Both of them have done some great work with railroads at some point. And they've both done some phenomenal things with chicken over the years. I don't know. I think one of the silliest things we compete over is trauma, right? We compete over who's had the worst trauma. I've done this plenty of times, right? There was a comedian friend of mine, Jay Whitecotton, very funny comedian out of Austin. He's a frustrating human being, but I love him, Jay and I were sitting outside his house, and we were just bullshitting after a show, and we were talking about shitty dads because we both have shitty dads. right? And he was telling me some stories about his dad, and he said, my dad used to come home drunk and break into my brother and I's room, wake us up out of bed, and then beat the shit out of us. And I was like, oh yeah? Well, my dad locked me in the kitchen, took a metal spatula and lit it till it was red hot and burnt the back of my leg, and he was sober. Nobody won. There's no fucking winners in that, especially anybody we've ever dated. Right? Nobody gets an award for that, right? Jay wasn't like, boy, that's quite the trauma. Here's a chalice full of my tears, my liege. That conversation should have ended with I prescribe you 1,000 hours of therapy to start. That's how it should have ended. It's fucking ridiculous. We compete over everything. We're in competition in our daily lives all the time, right? Who's got the better car? Who's got the bigger home? Who's got the hotter spouse? Right? Who's got the super sweet, smart, athletic wonder kids? Just like fucking relax. We don't need to keep trying to best each other all the time. We can just work together and figure out like how to make our lives just a little bit better for each other, right? Help each other out. That's what we need to do. We need to learn. We need to learn from these past mistakes we've made. Look, discrimination is discrimination. Slavery is slavery. Shitty dads are shitty dads. All we can do is learn from the experience, not try to compete over which experience is worse than the other one, and move forward to make a better tomorrow. That's what we need to do, right? And I'm not saying all competition is bad. I'm not saying that, right? There are certain forms of competition that are good. There's something called collaborative competition. Have you guys heard about collaborative competition? Right? That's not the idea that like you're competing over like who can work at group projects the best, right? Like who's building the best team. You know? It's not somebody going like, hey, wait a minute, wasn't that lady solving climate change with 6 environmental scientists? Not today. I need 4 biologists, 2 environmental scientists, and 1 rogue ecologist right now. We'll solve it by dawn. Just you fucking. That's not what that is. Collaborative competition basically says that you work with your opponents. That's what you do. You work with your opponents to see what ideas that you're not coming up with. Right? There are 2 groups. We got to learn from each other. We can still try to figure out. We're all working to get to the end result, right? So why not just work together and just compete with your past? Make your past better. That's what we should be in competition with. That's so much better of an idea to me, right? Yeah. Doesn't that make a little bit more sense? I should have warned you, some of this shit might not be funny. Competition just sows more divide in our society. But it really does, you know? We do. We're very divided when we compete with each other. And what's happening now is regular people are in competition with each other constantly. That's what we're doing, right? Look, people ask me this question all the time, and it kind of upsets me when people do. I've been getting it everywhere, right? People always come up and they go, well, which country do you like better? Do you like India or America better? Well, that's a stupid question. Right? Like, you know how people say, like, there are no stupid questions? No, I found. It's not a fair question. They're 2 different countries. That's all it is, right? They're different countries. You know, they both have really good things about them, and they both have really shitty things about them. You know, I mentioned a lot of really great things about India. America's got some cool things going on here too. You know, America has freedom of speech here. In India, I talked to a couple comics that were thrown in prison for saying shit about a political party. You know, like the comics in India are amazing, man. They're putting their lives on the line to criticize a political system that doesn't fucking work. I can say whatever the fuck I want up here, and the only thing I have to worry about is that my videos don't get watched on Facebook. You know what I mean? It's very silly to me. There's good things about everything. I think the one thing that both countries have in common is a problem with classes. There's a class war happening in both countries, and it's difficult to compete when India fucking perfected classes. We fucking nailed it on that shit, you guys. And that's because we've had a long time to practice. So, like when you've been practicing it for like 10,000 years, you're gonna fucking nail it. Like it's a good system. America's cute. America's very cute with its classes. It's adorable. You guys have like 3 different classes. Like the upper class, and you have like the middle class, which is basically a myth. And you have like the lower class, which is just all the poor people. You know. India's got 5. If we talk about traditional classism in India, it goes even deeper. There are thousands of different classes in India if you break them down religiously, right? Meaning how you pray, what God you pray to, and when you pray to them, all puts you in different classes. So if we were going to talk about that, we would never go home. you know. So let's stick to the 5. Let's stick to the 5 like standard classes, right? The topmost class are the Brahmins. That's the priests, right? And of course they have to be at the top of the class game because they can talk to God, right? And they have to be at the top in order for God to hear us because they're way the heaven up there. You're right. That's a chuckle joke. That's all that is. And then below them are like the kings and the politicians, right? And then underneath them, I thought this was hilarious, is administrators and warriors. That's fucking hilarious to me, right? That means a receptionist and a military general. Even keel. Doesn't that kind of make sense when you think about aggressive salespeople, though, right? Like if you dealt with like that's what door-to-door salesmen are. They're administrators that think that they're warriors. We're like, we're going to war over this fucking vacuum, baby. You are going to buy it. And you're like, you're hurting my hand. I feel like they got a little too real for some folks. Class number 4 is artists, farmers, merchants, traders, working class people. That's class number 4. Class number 5, the bottommost rung. Some people don't even consider this class, but I do, right? The bottommost rung of the Indian class system are the untouchables. That's not like a cute nickname that we came up with it. That's literally what you can't do to these people, right? You cannot touch them. That's how good at classism we got, people. Okay? That's how you fucking perfect the game, all right? That's some next level classism shit right there. We basically got together as a society at one point, and they're like, these people are so poor that we don't want to touch them and have their poverty run off on us. Fucking gold power classism right there. Right? Do you understand how ridiculous that is? Right? Look, I'll high five a redneck. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? I'll go hang out in a trailer park. Be like, yes, Ricky, I think all your guns are very nice. No, I believe you. I believe that you're faster than your neighbor at shooting cans. I do. I believe you. No, I don't want you to show me. It's so loud. It's just I don't. No, I know you can make a bomb out of household cleaning products. I know. No, I don't. I don't want you to demonstrate. I really. Let's just get it over. Let's high five. There you go. There we go. It's what it is. It's incredible. America, I think the major difference between America and India when it comes to the class struggle, and this is the part that it makes me fucking really angry. So I'm trying to figure out how to make it funny, so it just doesn't come off that I'm just screaming at people. But the difference is India's very open about this shit. Everybody knows that this class system exists, right? There's a lot of people trying to fight it, but everybody knows it. Everybody knows this class structure exists in India. We see it every single day, right? One of the first things you see when you land in Bombay is a shanty town. That's what you see. They were trying to get rid of these people because they're like, oh, you're making our city look bad. No, your fucking class system's doing that, assholes. You change that before you displace some humans. It's the first thing you see. The difference, I think America hides it though. We don't really talk about it as openly as we do. That there is a class structure in America, right? There is a class problem in America. But we've been doing it for decades, hundreds of years, right? 400 years we've been doing it. 100 years before America was a country, there was something called Bacon's Rebellion, right? This is not like a bunch of pigs rose up and were like, Nathaniel, like I know it sounds, but there is some hog thievery in the story. Nathaniel Bacon was a rich person that was pretty sick of the elites, the aristocrats and the politicians in Jamestown, Virginia, that were pushing the white frontiersmen out further west into native territory, which was creating a political problem between the white frontiersmen and the natives, right? So the natives would come in because their land is being taken over by a bunch of fucking white people that, their open immigration policy totally fucked over, That was the natives' fault. The natives had too open of an immigration thing. Right? It was too open. So they, thank you. Uh, but so they were attacking the white frontiersmen, and at one point, in order to like have retribution, they were like, hey, somebody needs to pay for these land. Let's just go steal some pigs. That's what the natives did. They stole a bunch of pigs. The white frontiersmen got super mad, went in, killed two of the natives in order to get the pigs back. The natives sent a war party in, killed a bunch of farmers. Now, all this shit is happening because the rich aristocrats don't want to give up their land. And Nathaniel Bacon, who was in the House of Burgesses, right, the political party, didn't like any of it. And he was like, look, we got to stop doing this. We're using them as cannon fodder to prevent native attacks, and that's not okay. These are our people. And basically, the people in the political system were like, hey, you're a rebel, is what you are, so fuck you. We're going to put you in prison. That's what we're going to do. And then 2,000 white frontiersmen, indentured servants, and black slaves came up and joined Nathaniel Bacon in his rebellion. So much so that they burned Jamestown, to the fact that the aristocrats were freaked out, called England, right? Well, they sent a telegram to England. Sent like a letter. They like called. That would have been weird. They were like, how do these people have telephones? Right? They sent a telegram to England, and the only way this rebellion was squashed was that 2,000 English soldiers came on American soil and killed a bunch of them. That's how the rebellion ended. Nathaniel Bacon survived. The way he died was very similar to how a lot of people at that point died. Probably cholera, whatever. So he died, and the church hated him so much that they basically said they said something to the effect of, "It really sucks that lice and the flu took care of Nathaniel Bacon and instead of the hangman." That's how, right? That's a beautiful level of hatred. The the aristocrats realized that this rebellion might happen again, and the way that they squashed it is they took some of the indentured servants and they said, we'll give you your freedom and we'll give you a little piece of land. They took all the guns from the black slaves and the indentured servants and they gave it to the frontiersmen to fight the natives. And then they made the black people and the white people hate each other, even though the common enemy was the fucking same, and then everybody hated the natives. That's how that ended. That was 1676, 100 years before America formally became a country, and we're still fucking doing this shit. It's the same system. And look, you would have thought maybe the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights gives us these things, right? That's not true. James Madison wasn't a big fan of the people either. James Madison basically thought we were too stupid to be involved in our own government, right? He basically said, we'll give them a couple of rights and we'll pacify them so they don't need to be uprise against us. Thomas Jefferson was the only person that said a little bit of rebellion is good for the government system. It's a checks and balances system. And then they were like, don't. Shut the fuck up, Tom. Okay? Shut the Do we have some slaves to fuck, Tom? What are you doing? You invited this bullshit. Alexander Hamilton. Alexander Hamilton was incredible. He was so unabashed about his hatred for the common man, right? Alexander Hamilton was like, these people suck so much. We should have like a lifetime sentence for someone in charge. And we're like, didn't we just fucking get rid of that thing? Who let this guy into the house? Who let this guy here? Right? But they both wrote the same thing. They were both basically saying that you got to pacify the people, just give them enough rights to make them feel good about themselves, and they won't uprise against us. And all this shit is still happening. 400 years later, it's the same fucking system, right? Poor white people are pit against black people and immigrants, and they keep getting fed this lie that black people and immigrants are coming for their jobs and their guns. We don't care about your jobs and your guns, right? Like, we just want to live our lives just like everybody else does. You know, we think we got rid of slavery. We didn't. We just changed it. We have prison labor. Prisoners don't get paid shit, but they're making a bunch of stuff. Right? Internships still exist. Why? That's just basically white collar slavery. Sorry, I can't eat experience. Like, see, I told you, that part just gets angry. It infuriates me. 400 fucking years. How have we not learned this shit? It just infuriates me that we haven't got to that point. You know? It's because we still compete with ourselves. Right? And I think this competition comes from one spot. Right? This hyper competitive behavior that human beings have comes from the lizard brain part of our head. You guys have heard about the lizard brain? Yeah. Do you know what the lizard brain actually is? The lizard brain is a almond-sized portion of your brain called the amygdala. That means and it controls like your fear, your anxiety, a lot of aggression, a bunch of different emotions. So basically, we're taking all of the anxiety and all of the fear that we have, and then we're just jamming it through an almond. That's what we're doing, and we're making all of our decisions through that. So like, we're just like, let's just shove everything into an almond and see what comes out. And I'm like, oh, we hate this almond. And black people, we hate them too. It's like, what the fuck is happening? Maybe don't listen to the smallest part of your brain, right? That's it, going against evolution. Evolution was basically like, you guys can do everything. Let's listen to these parts of the brain, and then we'll shrink this aggressive part of the brain, and we're like, no, we're going to go with the aggression. I had a lot of feelings. It's fucking ridiculous. I think because we listen to the amygdala, it makes us more violent as a species. We still haven't let go of that shit, right? We still act like we're still in the trees, that we need to be aggressive and violent to get by. It's completely ridiculous. We don't need to compete with each other. We really don't, you know? Yeah, sorry. I'm gonna take a drink. I accidentally pissed myself off. That usually doesn't happen. Usually somebody else gets pissed off and they're like, fuck this faggot. Like, that's... that happened to me. We are, man. I think our competition is making us a lot more violent. And I think the proof is in how policing has been treated over the last couple of years, right? We've militarized the shit out of the police, right? Yeah. It's ridiculous. We've militarized the police. Shouldn't it be protect and serve, not kill and acquit? What the fuck happened? I feel like we missed some shit, right? And we have militarized the police. If you look at a cop now, right? The cops they have all this armor and a bunch of this equipment on. They don't even look human, you know? It's completely ridiculous, and that's true. We have been militarizing the police. The Department of Defense has been giving small town police officers surplus military grade weapons to put into their police system because Dothan, Alabama sure is where the insurgents is. Then again, Battle Creek, Michigan sure is an aggressive sounding name, right? That's a name that came out of the almond. It's fucking ridiculous, right? So ridiculous. Like, what are you supposed to do at that point? Like, when you call the cops, you're like, hey, I need you to come down. My neighbor is playing his music way too loud. It's too much noise. And they're like, we're on our way. We just fueled up the F-14. When you hear the sonic boom, that's us. Completely outrageous. It turns out the job of being a police officer is actually bad to human beings. It's not something that's actually good for our psychology, right? It's a negative effect on our own psychology. The cops have PTSD just by the means of being a cop. Because if you think about it, what do cops see? Right? Cops don't see people having a good time. They see bad things all the time. They see the dregs of society. They see the worst of the worst, right? So at the end of the day, after the eighth person pees on you, you just think everybody wants to pee on you. And it's gonna make you a little aggressive, right? It would be awesome if we called the cops to like celebrate shit, though, right? Totally change how we have what the relationship between citizens and cops would be, right? How awesome would it be if you called the cops and they showed up at your door and you was like, "You gotta come on in, man. My neighbor baked these fucking cookies. Holy shit, they are incredible. Try the peanut butter ones. Oh, you're allergic to peanut butter? She made vegan cookies. Be awesome, but we don't. Just we just keep getting more violent, right? And look, we have some suggestions out there in the policing world to help police officers be less violent, right? Not listen to the almond all the time. You know, mandatory counseling is something that has been suggested by a lot of different people to be enacted, and it has to be mandatory because there's a lot of hyper masculinity in the cop world, right? Because there's a lot of that shit where it's just like, man, if I talk about my feelings, what if they take my balls away if I talk about my feelings? It's like, well, you got two of them, you'll be fine. So it's got to be mandatory. But the Fraternal Order of Police, the president of the Philadelphia Fraternal Order of Police, came out and he said he's completely against mandatory counseling. He would much rather have their officers solve their problems with a shot and a beer. I mean, that's probably the best they can come up with, considering they call themselves a frat house. So, you know, right? They're just like, hey, you feel bad about shooting that innocent black kid? Drown those feelings. Do an upside down keg stand, you pussy. Like it's fucking awful. Now we have to deal with drunk cops all the time. Oh man, that's gonna be upsetting, right? They're gonna be trying to hit on us as they're putting us in the back of the cop car. You have the right to remain silent. Also, what are you doing later? Fucking Me Too nightmare over here. It's hard, man. You know, a lot of the excuses that are used against cops when people come up and they say we have to excuse police behavior for police brutality and stuff is like, oh, it's just a rotten egg. That's all it is. It's just one rotten apple. It's just one bad guy. Let's not judge a whole system by one bad guy. This is not immigrants or black people we're talking about here. Like that's the double standard, though, isn't it? Right? It's like you can't make that excuse for cops and not make that excuse for everybody else, right? And even in the immigrant community and in most of the minority communities, when we find that one person that's like embarrassingly being the stereotype, we're like, we either have to leave or have a conversation. We're like, hey, can you not do the accent today? That'd be great. Taking it up a little too much, right? Look, uh, I get the argument of the rotten apple, right? But here's the thing: one rotten apple can ruin the entire orchard for everybody. It's it's just what can happen, right? If you eat one rotten apple, you're done with apples for the rest of your life. The problem with this rotten apple argument is that the rot is spreading. It's spreading everywhere, and these rotten apples are taking the bark of the tree and they're turning it into batons, and they're taking the seed and turning it into bullets. We need to fix the fucking system. That's what we need to do. Fix the rot that's killing the trees. You know? We need more trees. We need to be accepting things like mandatory counseling as solutions to help the problem, not keep exacerbating them, making them worse. Right? We need to look at cops as people. They're people that represent the law and they're not above it. If we can't do that, then we're never going to solve the system. So I think every so often you should just invite a police officer and be like, I made some pasta. It is vegan. You're going to be fine. Next page. I think the epitome of violence is war. We've been talking about a lot of violent things. I think that's the epitome of violence, right? I think what we need in our society right now, that I think will really help this competitive behavior, this overly violent behavior that's stuck in us, is I think we really need a global anti-war movement. We do. I don't think we have one right now. Yeah. It's a reality we have to accept. We don't have a global anti-war movement going on right now, and we desperately need one, right? Our anti-war movement is basically, hey, I'm against war, but it's the whole movement. Right? That's like saying, hey, I don't like your abusive ex-boyfriend, but he's got some great tickets to Dave Matthews Band. So we need less of this shit. Yeah. We need less of it. We need less abusive boyfriends. We need less wars, and we need fucking less Dave Matthews. You cannot crash into me, Dave. I do not give you consent. It's ridiculous. It's the epitome of violence. It's what it is. War is just the epitome of violence. It's completely destructive. It's like having a sibling rivalry constantly. Do you guys have siblings? Anybody have siblings? Yeah. You guys share a room with your sibling at any point in your life? Yeah, you know exactly what war feels like. It's a good analogy, isn't it? It's a territorial battle every single day. Sometimes there are prisoners of war, and that's the Barbies. I've done it. I've taken my sister's Barbies, taken one of their hands, and just sent it to her. That's what it is. It's very similar. We fought each other. We physically fought each other. We would fight each other constantly, right? Pull at each other's hairs, shit like that. Right? The difference between sibling rivalry and war is you might lose some chunks of hair in a sibling rivalry, but in war you're losing chunks of humanity. Yeah. Hair grows back. People don't. People don't. You know. And look, even if they did, nothing good comes from bringing the dead back to life. There's never been a story. There's never been a story that's been like, hey, we brought back Einstein and Napoleon and Ulysses S. Grant, and they had a great time over tea. They were talking about how to provide free energy to the masses and how to really redistribute the wealth and solve climate change. It was a good, productive conversation. No, that conversation would be, oh my God, Einstein is eating the brain of the cameraman. He is eating their brain to absorb their knowledge. Ulysses S. Grant is in the liquor cabinet. I didn't even know there was a liquor cabinet there. Did you guys know? Okay, Napoleon is trying to fuck everybody to prove that he's a man. Oh my God, this is awful. This is a mistake. This was a mistake. You know? People bring a lot of weird little arguments about war. It's very difficult to be anti-war in this country. It really is. To come out and say that you're anti-war, it's very difficult to do that. It's a very controversial thing to say that you're anti-war because people assume if you're anti-war, then you're anti-veteran, and it could be further from the truth, right? I have a lot of friends that were veterans. Yeah, I have a lot of friends that are veterans. Most of them are not pro-war because they've seen it. It's crazy. Yeah, you shouldn't. Look, here's the thing. If you are anti-war, it's the most pro-veteran thing you can do because you just don't want to see any more fucking veterans, right? And if you are going to keep making veterans, maybe you should take care of them. People bring a lot of weird excuses into war, though, right? They make a lot of weird excuses for why we continue to keep warring. Well, it's a dude's problem, Krish, number one. It's what it is. It's men. It's men problem. It's men and their evil penises. That's what it is. It's just dudes. They're coming into these countries and they're whipping their dicks out and their dicks are rocket launcher. Boom. It's war right there, buddy. Fucking men and their goddamn wars, and it's like, whoa, 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 time out. Have we forgotten about Margaret Thatcher? Holy shit. Let's go a little contemporary. Did we forget about Hillary Clinton? What the fuck? Gender doesn't have anything to do with war, right? Lockheed Martin, war profiteer, Lockheed Martin, and General Dynamics, both companies, the CEOs of those companies are women. Yeah, war profiteers, owned by women. Yeah, It's completely. It's not. It's not a argument that completely makes any sense, right? Exes, exes have been warring against people's genitals for years. That's not a gender debate ever. You know? There have been plenty of badass female warriors that have gone to war. You know, plenty of badass female warriors that have gone to war. Queen Mary killed over 200 Protestants because she didn't like the way they were praying to God, right? She didn't like the way they were drawing God's beard. You know, she was like, God does not have a goatee. Slaughter him. Joan of Arc is probably the most famous of all the badass female warriors, right? Yeah, Joan of Arc talked to God and said that she was chosen to lead the French into victory to coronate King Charles, and then they put her into battle and she fucking won. And men were so insecure about that shit, they were like, what do we do to get our masculinity back? And they're like, I know, we'll call her crazy and set her on fire. That's what they did. Yeah. They accused her of. She was put on trial for over 37 different things. So let's go over the big three, right? First of all, she was convicted of heresy because she was a woman that said she could talk to God. How dare she? You know, at that time, I mean, that's ridiculous. You know, women, they have all these, their ears are just so delicate and soft. That the big, booming, ethereal voice of God, they just can't handle it, you know? If God really talked to a woman, there would be nothing left except two smoldering breasts. Second was witchcraft, because she was a woman, duh, obviously. Third one, this is the funniest one to me. She was convicted of dressing like a man. Yeah, she cut her hair, she wore pants, you know, they were just like, that's too much! You crossed the line, Joan! You know? They fucking lost it on her. Which, look, I think Joan of Arc did everybody a favor. She did everybody a favor. Could you imagine what would have happened to the egos of all the entire French army and the English army if Joan of Arc rode into battle wearing the most beautiful, long, frilly dress and a helmet, and then still kicked all of their asses? Holy shit. That would have been such a blow to England's ego that that entire little country might have sank into the ocean. Which might have made history better. I'm not sure. Right? But that, so here's the thing. Joan of Arc denounced God. So they let go of the heresy thing and they dropped the witchcraft argument. The one thing she wouldn't let go of is dressing like a man. She was like, I'm not returning the pants. I'm keeping them, they're comfortable. Look at these pockets. You know, she just didn't want to let go of it. That's the thing that got her. That's the thing that's the one, right? They looked at that one and they're like, we're not letting that go. Burn the bitch. That's what they did. That's crazy. Could you imagine what would happen if that rule was still put into place? Every target would have to come with sales associate and crosses. Man, you guys didn't like that one. That's fine. Ridiculous. I had to think about it though, right? I really had to think about, is there a matriarchal society in this world that's fully run by women, that's non-violent, that doesn't go to war? You know, I had to really think about it. Do I know of any? The first one that came to my mind was the Amazons. But even the Amazons are a bunch of badass female warriors, aren't they? Yeah. The Amazons are legendary. One of the things the Amazons do is cut off one of their breasts to be better archers. Right! Top 5 greatest organs of the human body. Just. I don't see a lot of men cutting off one of their testicles to be better at Medal of Honor on the Xbox. That's an argument that's used against women all the time, isn't it? The pain argument, like it's used against women all the time. They can't be good leaders because once a month they'll be out of commission for a little while. You know, the PMS argument is used against women all the time that they can't be leaders, they can't be warriors, all that kind of shit. That's completely false. It's an argument that doesn't hold up. Men don't deal with pain very well. We just don't. As a gender, we're not fucking great at it, right? My wife, who's a musician, by the way, she plays rock and roll music, right? My wife, every single month, will push so much blood out of her body that she should legally be considered dead. Every month she'll tell me about all these cramps and pains that she's going through, and then still get on stage and fucking play a rock and roll show. And I have to sit down if I have acid reflux. The tour had gas. It's a bullshit argument. It doesn't work anymore. It's not an argument that works, right? It's just ridiculous that these arguments work. I think a lot of this shit, blaming war on one gender is all an excuse. It's all distraction, right? It's these bullshit gender rules. That's all it is. That's all we're playing into. We're playing into these bullshit gender roles. That's all we do, right? There's a social psychologist by the name of Steven Pinker. Anybody hear of Steven Pinker?
Yes.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. Good. Thank God. Steven Pinker's awesome, right? He's one of my favorites. I like the way that he explains things. Even when I disagree with him, I'm like, look at your sweater, it's darling. I can't be mad at you about that. Right? He's awesome. But one of the things Steven Pinker says is that we're actually living in a less violent society because of the feminization of men. Now, that might be true. I just don't like the term feminization of men. I think it's another one of these bullshit gender roles, right? Who's to say that men can't feel emotions? That men can't be more in touch with themselves, right? We're living in a society where these emotions are relegated only to one gender, which is complete nonsense, right? In our society right now, men can't even hug each other unless we're willing to crush the enemy into a diamond. It's horseshit. These are all nonsense gender roles. We don't need them. They don't make any sense. They don't do us any good anymore, right? At some point they probably did, but they don't anymore. And I think we're evolved enough that if we don't shovel things through a fucking almond, we'll be fine. We can move forward. Yeah. My wife and I, we don't have these gender roles, we really don't. I have cried at the last, 57 Marvel movies. Every single comic book movie, I'm in fucking tears by the end of it, right? I've cried at the end of Forrest Gump. I've cried at the end of Cowboy Bebop, which is a cartoon. I cried at the end of Lord of the Rings. Not because it was a sad ending or anything, just because it was over. It's exciting for me. We just don't. We don't have gender roles in our house. My wife owns power drills. I don't know how to use a power drill, and it's probably for the best. If I figured it out, I'll just be drilling holes and shit. Look at the art I made. Let's put the toy away. Right? I cook. I do a lot of the cooking in our house. I like to have fun with it, right? I don't follow any rules. I just put a bunch of spices together and fry them up and see what comes out. It's exciting to me. My wife comes into the kitchen and she's like, I hope this tastes good. And I'm like, me too. We go on an adventure together, right? She does a lot of the construction. I do a lot of the cooking. We don't have these gender roles, She beats me. We just don't have... It's a joke. The last one is a joke. It's fun. We love each other very much. So saying that men are the only ones that create war, it's just a bullshit gender role. It's putting this identity onto war that doesn't belong there. Look, war doesn't have a gender. It doesn't care about it, right? It doesn't care about gender. It doesn't care about the color of your skin. It doesn't care about what God you pray to, who you choose to love, and what's between your legs. It doesn't care. War is about one thing. It's about domination and exploitation. It's about going into a certain place and taking something you think belongs to you when it fucking doesn't. That's what war is about.
America!
At the end of the day, your identity is not all that important. It's really not. It's important to you. So what has more value is what you do with your identity because you think it's important. If you're going to go and try to take somebody's shit because you think it belongs to you, then I'm sorry, you're just an asshole. And that can transcend any identity. All right, we got one long weird piece to go. Are you guys still with me? Weird piece? Well, we've been going for a while. Thank you. you guys so much for coming out. You guys have really been an amazing audience. You really have. Give yourselves a round of applause for hanging out with us tonight. At the end of the show, I've got some CDs, and they're pay what you want, whatever you want to give me for them, and then I'll just give them. I'm a terrible fucking salesman. I'm not in that warrior administration class. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then I have an email list as well. The email list is going to be the easiest way to keep in touch because Facebook is going to implode on itself. It has to, you know? So we're eventually going to go back to like the email list or carrier pigeons. And I'm scared of birds, so I'm doing the email. So come hang out with us. We're going to be hanging around. Another big round of applause for MJ and Senthil, guys. They were fucking amazing. Yeah. All right, so let's do this long, weird piece that I'm trying to end the show on. Here's the question that I have, right? Through all of this competitive behavior, with all of this war shit that we do, why are we doing it, right? Why do we destroy the beautiful things that we've created? Look at all of this stuff, right? Look at the lights, the drinks, the sound, all of this stuff. We made that shit together. Why are we destroying it, right? And the bigger question is, are we the only animal that does that? Are we the only animal that destroys what we create? That's the question I had. So I hunted some shit down. You know, I went to do some research. I looked into the animal kingdom. I saw what nature has to offer. The first place I went to was bees, right? Bees are animals that create things. They create these hives, perfect hexagons, not one geometry class. It's pretty awesome. Bees are a very interesting species, right? Bees have one queen, and that queen, her only job is to have babies. It's not very feminist, but we're going to give them a pass. Then they have a group of bees that has sex, specifically has sex with the queen. And then they have the worker bees, which do everything, right? They take care of the hive, they fix the hive, they go fetch the honey, they feed the larvae, they take care of the queen. But if these worker bees have a disagreement, right? Let's say they don't like the way that the queen's being fucked. Like, let's say, right? They're like, I think she needs to be on top more. She's an independent woman, right? That's like what the bees, you know, they don't stand up and they're like, we're gonna make a Facebook post about it, or like rally outside and break down Starbucks. Like, they don't do any of that. They swarm. That's what a bunch of swarming bees are. A swarm of bees are a bunch of revolutionary bees. Isn't that awesome? Yeah. And then they find a place to start a new hive, and then they have to go and convince all these bees to join their new hive. And they don't do it by like yelling at each other or writing like a blog post or anything about it. They just dance. Right? How awesome is that? They're just dancing. That's what they're doing to convince you to join their new hive. You know? Wouldn't that be amazing if that's how we decided to solve our differences? Can it wait till the very end of the show? I'll come talk to you. Okay. It would be great if we like danced our solutions away, wouldn't it? Like instead of getting mad at your friends because they won't help you move, what if you just went to their apartment and you're like, hey Kevin, come on baby, me and you, we can do it. You got a truck, I got some boxes. Let's make it happen. You know, we'll bond, we'll get together. It'll be a good time. We'll have some pizza and beer afterwards. And you're like, fine, I'll do it. Just stop whatever you're doing. Keep on looking. Keep on looking. Just take what you want. Found that there are ants. Ants are another species that build stuff, right? They build colonies, very intricate and efficient colonies, right? There's a species of ant that I discovered in my research that protects its colony from attacking termites. And what they'll do is they'll march out in these single file lines. And when they get to the termite, they'll pop up on the termite and then they will bite their mandibles into the termite, which secretes this fluid that mixes with the fluids in the termite skin, and then they explode. Guys, nature has made suicide ants, and I don't know why you guys aren't more excited about it. I was so fucking excited when I discovered this shit, right? I was like, suicide ants, and they still have the decency to blow up outside their homes. That's awesome. these are bugs. Okay, let's look for. We'll move up the chain, right? Mammals. Let's look at some mammals. Let's go directly to the chimpanzee. Right, that's the animal that's closest to human beings. 99% of our DNA is similar to the chimpanzee, right? And I found out the chimpanzees, they're assholes, you guys. A bunch of dicks, right? They are. They will actually go to war with each other. 99%. They will go to war with each other. Right. What they do when they go to war is they will enter these tribes and they will kill the males and they'll take the females. That's some Viking shit right there. You know what I mean? Like it's very similar behavior. But here's the thing: they don't destroy the nests. They don't destroy the food supply. They don't destroy anything up in the trees. Because they need that. What they're doing is trying to acquire more land. They're trying to gain more and more land. It turns out that chimps are just very aggressive real estate moguls. That's what they are. And I kept researching, and I basically came to the conclusion that human beings are the only animal that destroys the things we create. That's so fucking depressing. Oh my god. Right? I did not go through to find suicide ants to get to this result. I was like, make me a suicide ant at this point. That's what. It's depressing, isn't it? Why do we do this, man? Why do we do this? We build so much beautiful things, right? All of these structures, these cities, these systems, the art, the beautiful culture, the food, all of this stuff, we built that shit together. We built that shit together and we just destroy it all the time, willingly. We make a decision to go out and destroy these things. Why are we doing It's so upsetting to me that we do this. Why? Why do human beings do it? And I think we need to blame IKEA. I will explain. Everybody's already on board with it. This is the first crowd that's been like, yeah, that's it. Pretty much nailed it. Shows up, right? All the other crowds are just like, what happened to IKEA? They're Swedish. The Swedish don't go to war anymore. I will explain, right? There's this thing called the IKEA effect, right? If you think about it, what do we go to IKEA for? We go to IKEA to ruin relationships. and to build furniture with our hands, right? So at the end of the day, when you're alone in the parking lot because Janet fucking left you, all you have left is your Geo Metro and that goddamn fucking coffee table that you bought. And you're gonna go home and build that goddamn coffee table because it doesn't matter what Janet says. You are a man, okay? You are a fuck. You can do this shit. You know how to do this, okay? And then you drive home and you open the box and you get into the instructions and they're not even in English. Most of them are in Mandarin and some of it is in Latin, which you thought was a dead language, but I can't. Then you start getting into it and you find out that 2/3 of the screws are just missing. Right? They're just missing. And as you're building it, you start crying because you miss Janet. You miss her. Fuck her, but you miss her. You had a moment. She was so good at building the furniture and she had all the tools. She had all the tools and you're just crying, right? It's a lot of hard work. You're putting a line. You're just sweating. You're pouring through sweat, and then you don't know where to go with it. So then you cut your hands in the middle of it. You just build it, and there's duct tape, and there's glue and screws all over the place. And then at the end of the day, you built a fucking coffee table. You did it. You literally put your blood, sweat, and tears into that coffee table. Yeah. It's a fucking long way to go for that joke, isn't it? I feel like it's worth it. But you now have a bond with that coffee table, right? You built it with your bare hands, and you're excited about it, right? You have a personal connection to it. There's history behind this coffee table, right? And then you call all your friends, and they're like, come over and check out this coffee table that I built. And everybody's like, who gives a shit? And you're like, it's fine. Just come over, and I'll put something on the flat screen, and just come hang out, check out this table, right? And all your friends come over, and they completely disrespect this coffee table, right? Nobody's using coasters, And then at one point, because the game's on and they're all excited, one of your friends jumps on top of the coffee table, which is not safe because that's an IKEA coffee table. And it can't support the weight of a full-grown human. But they don't care. They're more excited about the TV because it turns out that Toshibas are more exciting than the tubes. But none of your friends have a personal investment with this thing. They don't have a personal investment with it, right? So they don't care about it. That's how we take the world. None of these other cultures, none of these other countries, we feel like we have a personal connection to. So we say, fuck it. We don't have anything to do with their history. We don't have anything to do with their art or their cultures or anything. So fuck it, blow them up. Who gives a shit? That's how we look at climate change too. That's why even though we have a bunch of people that keep saying that they believe that climate change is reality, they don't want humanity to be connected to it, right? There's all this denial going around. That's because we didn't build this world. So we say fuck it, we'll destroy it and build a new one. Unfortunately, it's not how nature works. Nature will find a way. We will become our own meteors if we don't listen to ourselves a little bit more. Well, we do, you know? Yeah. But it's the wrong way of thinking. It really is the wrong way of thinking, right? To think that we didn't have anything to do with all of this stuff. Everybody had a part in the things that we built around us. And if you forget that, if you forget that we all had our parts in history to do what we had to do to get to this moment, to learn from our past, to move forward together, everybody has to come along for that. If you forget about that moment, just think about the number 0. Zero is a quintessential number in human history. It really is. It's an incredibly quintessential number to human history. Okay? And basically, 0 was invented in India. That's where the concept came up. At that point, we could only count up to 9, right? People could only take 9 things at a time. Completely revolutionized the numeric system, right? Arab scholars came to India, discovered 0 from a bunch of these Hindu scholars, and they said, can we do something with it? And they said, yeah, take it, see what you can do, come back, help us out. You know, so the Arab scholars took it, they put it to all of their scientists and their mathematicians, and they started working into their formulas, and everything started expanding, right? Mathematics became something different. Scientific discoveries became something different. It opened up a bunch of channels, right? So the Arab scholars were like, we need more. We got some more questions that we just discovered. Let's go back to the Hindu scholars and see if they can find the answers, right? So they went back to the Hindu scholars, and the Hindu scholars looked at what the Arabs had, and they were like, let's sleep on it. And they're like, don't do that. We bought this thing called coffee. Drink that because we need the answers now. So the Hindus added more to it, and it expanded all mathematics, science, it expanded spirituality, it expanded religions, it expanded every single way, and then it went back to the Arab world. And at this point, the Silk Road was happening. A lot of Europeans were coming into the Arab world, so they were getting this information. So they got to take what we knew about 0 and add their things into it, and it went around the world, and it became what it was. And 0 is amazing. 0 is the center point. 0 is the idea of nothing. It's the void. You can't have something without nothing. It's the starting point of everything, right? It's this beautiful concept. And everybody put their hands into it. Everybody did something with it. And they completely changed the game, right? We all came together. The entire world came together and took this idea of nothing and called it balance. That's incredible to me. We invented negative numbers because of 0, right? And 0 became that center point that you have to go through. If you want to go from negative infinity to positive infinity, you got to go through 0. You got to hit that center point, right? And there is a lot of negativity in the world right now. We're very angry. A lot of people are shoving things through the almond. We're just angry at each other. We keep fighting each other all the time, right? A lot of negativity going around in the world. People don't think that we can win anymore. But we can. We just got to do it together. And if we remember that we made something as beautiful as 0, and we made that shit together, maybe we can get to that point. Maybe we can find our way together back to 0. We can find our way back to balance. Thank you very much, guys. Enjoy the rest of your night. Thank you so much.
Please stand and go for the headliner, Chris.